Hi everyone, today I want to show you my new Neovim plugin and also introduce you to the concept of Neovim operations and test objects. So my plugin is called Beam.nvim and I will do the demo how it works, but first let me start by saying why you need such a plugin and how it came to be. First of all, you need to understand what Neovim or Vim operators are. Operators are essentially verbs in editing Neovim editing grammar, so something you can do. We can take a look at help here, and you can see that we have operator defined as a motion commands that can be useful after operator command to have the command operate on the text that was moved over. So in other words, various operators will perform various actions. C for change, D for delete, young for copy. You also more esoteric or exotic ones, but those are your typical basic operators that you're using. One important operator is also V for visual selection. So this is how Vim or Neovim first of all works, right? So you can delete or change or visually select or young. So those are your operations that you perform. Now we can perform those operations on text objects. What are text objects? Again, text objects is essentially, think of it as a scaffolding that Vim gives to the text in a buffer. So here, what you can see in the screen is a Neovim buffer, and it holds text. Now, the text consists obviously of single characters, and they can be sliced and diced together in different ways. So this whole section in Vim or Neovim is called a text object called paragraph. So everything that is separated by empty lines like that and doesn't have empty lines in between is defined as a paragraph. Now, why this is interesting is that you can perform various operations, like we've seen earlier, change, delete, young, on a text object, in this case, on a paragraph. There are obviously more text objects. So for instance, this is a text object called word. This is a text object called sentence, and so on. So I like to think about it as Neovim or Vim giving a buffer and the content of it some structure that you can treat it a little bit like, syntactic scaffolding that is very helpful to think about. It's not just a blob of text, but it has certain structure. Now, the text objects have in Neovim and both in Vim have one property that is interesting. They are either operating on an internal or inner something. So inner word in this case would be, actual letters. But if word contains non-letter characters, like this one, for example, it would be uppercase word. So if I want to operate on, let's say, a paragraph like this, would be a better example. And if I say inner paragraph, it selects exactly what I selected with my mouse here. So just a paragraph. But when I say outer paragraph, it will also select, in this case, two empty lines on top and below. So this is important because depending how the text object is defined, the inner or outer can have a different behavior here. All right, so if you already know this, sorry for the reminder, but if you're new to these concepts, they are very important for understanding how to work with Vim or Neovim. So operations like young or cut or delete and so on are performed on text objects that are kind of scaffolding. Okay, so this is how this starts. Now, Vim already provides ability to operate on text objects not only on where you are currently with your cursor, but you can kind of think of it as trying to remotely perform an operation. So this is possible by using the command line mode and then referring to a specific line in the buffer. So you can say, take whatever is on the line 5 and T is for copy it to line 10. Or you can also do a dot instead, copy this to current line, or M for move. However, those operations, although really useful, only work on line mode. And this is kind of the beginning how Beam.nvim was born. So the idea behind Beam.nvim is that I really want to take the text objects and perform operations on them in the same way how I can do this in line mode. It will become clearer when I show you a demo, but I just wanted to give you an idea why Beam.nvim was created. So let's talk about how we typically work in Vim or Neovim. So first of all, you have your buffer and you want to find a text to do something with it. You know, edit it, change, yank or delete or do whatever. So typically your first thought would be, how do I get there, right? So you want to somehow navigate to the target, whether it's a paragraph like I showed you earlier or a specific word. And you have various options here. So you can just use normal search function in Vim with slash searching forward or question mark searching backwards, although they are now like combined. You can move through the document by Ctrl D or Ctrl U, going up, and there's various ways how you can kind of arrive to the line that you want to edit, right? You can also do colon and just a line number if you have line numbers available. But one way or the other, you really want to get there first. Once you do this, your cursor moves to the location, and then, in my opinion, editing in Neovim should be almost all about text objects. This is like the most powerful feature. So you want to change maybe a word, or copy a sentence, or delete a paragraph, right? And you use text objects to manipulate in normal mode all your text. Of course, you can go into insert mode and start just typing something. But if you talk about manipulating text, formatting it, moving blocks of text around, that's how you would typically do it. Then you apply the operator. So first you select some text and you can apply the operator. It can be also done in one go. And text is modified, deleted, copied, whatever you want, and then you navigate somewhere. You maybe want to navigate where you were if you wanted to copy something over, or you maybe wanted to go to different place in the document. This is perfectly fine, but the problem for me, at least with this workflow, is that I focus on a small chunk of text when I'm editing either code or Markdown, and I really want to stay there, focused. Sometimes I want to reorganize something in the document, or I'm typing something in insert mode and I know that now I need to delete something below because I replaced it, or I want to copy it, and so on. So all this jumping and then trying to find my way back to where I was just breaks my flow. So that's why I came up with the idea of Beam.nvim. So now we will switch really quickly to a demo, and I'll show you Beam.nvim in action. So this is just a simple README file from Beam.nvim repository, and we will use it just to show off a few features. So first of all, you can see that I might want to edit this Beam.nvim text for whatever reason. So normally, I could go by search, like typing search, Beam. Okay, that's not the one Beam I want, so I have to hit enter, hit N for next, and then I can do something like CI and then backtick to put me into change mode, and then I can start typing something here. That's already quite good, but there are other ways also. So now I activated normal line numbers. You see on the left hand side here, line 1, line 2, line 3. Now I know that the Beam.nvim is located on line 5. So I can do colon, you can see in the bottom here, colon, and then 5. And then it takes me to Beam. Now, this is the beginning of the text, but if it would be somewhere in the middle, I could again use search, or I can do like F for finding the word, and in this case, it would be B. Again, I am inside of this backticks. I can do maybe like DA and backtick to completely delete it. So, and then I'm with Control O, I'm going back. So you can see there's kind of like various ways how you can do it, right? If this is something a little bit more complicated, so for example, I want to copy the text here, right? So I'm typing something and I want to copy the whole text within the code block. So again, old way, I can just try to do either of those things I showed you, but with Beam.nvim, I can do comma in my case, which is like a little prefix that I'm using for all the shortcuts. And then I can do Y for young, and I have either I or A. So I is inner, remember, and A is outer, including the inner and outer block. So I want to do inner, and then I have a special text object that I created myself for operating on code blocks. So something that starts with triple backticks and then has, a name, like in this case Vim or Bash. In my case, this is letter M. So you can see here, young inside markdown code block. So when I do this, you see that now we are in search mode at the bottom here, because I might have more than one code block. So I know that this code block has various words, and I can maybe do like something like deep. And it found, you could see that the search highlight, if I do just DI, just gives me this search highlight. If this word would be maybe like search, so like search here, so there's 1, 2, 3, many searches, I can use Control G to jump to the search I want. Once I am on any word that is inside of my code block, when I hit enter, you see that it blinked for a moment. It tells me at the bottom 5 lines yanked, and those lines are in my buffer, so I can paste them where I'm currently working. Similar idea would be if I want to get rid of all this. I don't want to see it at all. So I would have to normally move to it, delete it, and so on. But with Beam.nvim, I can do something like comma, DAM, and then do again maybe deep to identify it, and it's gone. And I used DAM, which is around the code block marker. So that's how it looks. You can also do, with change. So for example, maybe I want to change a whole sentence from this press, right? So I can do the same kind of, this, and then CI and S for sentence, and I do press. And then you can see I am in change mode right here, right? A few other things that this plugin can do. I can copy a line. Remember, I told you that I can do this using command mode. So if I do, for example, I want to take this no jumping line and copy it. So I can do colon. This line is on line 19. I can do 19, T for copy, and dot for where I'm currently standing. You can see that it copied it and paste it immediately where I am. But I can do the same with comma, capital Y, and then do jumping, and it copied it. I have configured my plugin such that it doesn't paste it immediately where I am, because maybe I want to paste it, somewhere else, right? But it does the same concept. It can operate line-wise as well. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. I think it's a preference, like whether you like working in this way. I use it all the time, and just recently I decided to make a plugin out of it. And I know that quite a few people enjoy this type of editing as well, which kind of like centers around where you currently are, and then you operate on a whole buffer and kind of like from the place where you are, and then just operate on the text like this. So just to sum it up, Beam.nvim is essentially text object first. So I know what text objects I want to operate on, whether it's a word or a paragraph or, any custom text objects I might have. This can be a huge list of those. Once I know, I search. In this case, and this example, it's just a word. I search for a word. The object is found. It's being copied. I can navigate Ctrl-G and T. Those are default shortcuts to move through the search results. Then I press enter after I search. And in this specific case, it would copy it into the buffer. So there are, of course, several other really cool plugins that you can play with. One of the most well-known are Flash and Leap. My functionality of Beam.nvim is very similar. It's just slightly different in terms of kind of design philosophy. Both Flash and Leap enable you to also operate remotely, but they mostly focus on like labeling the buffer with letters and enabling you to quickly jump to it. So they are like move first idea, whereas I purely focus on text objects within Beam.nvim. So those plugins can work together. You can still use Leap to move somewhere, and you can still use Beam.nvim to execute an operation on a distant or remote text object. One choice that I made specifically for this plugin is to use a search feature rather than build my own buffer kind of marker with various labels. I think it's a little bit more intuitive, and although it adds the search step itself, I think we search the buffer constantly anyway. So this was for me a little bit more intuitive idea. Also, searches the full buffer. So if we go back to the file, and let's say at the end we have the word license. If I want to do like copy word and I put license, so this is the first word it finds, but if I start doing G, you see that we are jumping right here at the bottom. And then I copy it, and I copied this specific license. This is a trivial example, of course, but it's kind of nice because you have a whole buffer at your disposal, not just the visible part of it. And the search highlights, as you've seen, I find them really nice and intuitive. And this is a pretty cool feature of Neovim. This plugin is pretty fresh and new, so if you decide to use it, that would be awesome. I would appreciate feedback. There are a few issues that I am aware of. First of all, it's that it searches all the matches. So if I want to search for a word only inside of a code block, and I do something like, young inside of code block, and I start searching for the word search, you see that it highlights also other words. By the way, here at the bottom, I am integrating with status line, and I'm just like reminding myself what mode I am in. So I am currently searching inside of M. M for me is the code block. But I am working on making it a little bit narrower with regex, so that because I want to search inside of code block, I shouldn't really see those words search anywhere outside of it of code block. It's a current limitation of the plugin. It's not really that bad, but I'm working to improve it. Right, so this is kind of similar problem, that the boundaries vary on context, and the regex filtering would be needed here. As always, at the end, here are a few resources. So I posted this already on social media. There's a repository if you're interested, and it has also its own help in Neovim. And you can definitely and should read about text objects and operators in Neovim help, which is really, really cool. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I have other plugins, but I didn't really think they are worth advertising or making videos about, but you can check my GitHub profile and just type nvim in repositories, and there's quite a few other plugins. If you happen to work with Docusaurus a lot, or program like Present Term, which is the one that I'm using for giving this presentation, and I have some plugins for those as well. But otherwise, please, if you would like to try out the plugin, let me know what you think, whether this type of text editing is interesting to you, and if you notice any problems in the plugin or something doesn't work, or you would like a new feature. I'm accepting pull requests or just plain issues. So just wanted to share with you all something I've been working on and using for quite a while. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks everyone, and see you in the next one.